being here, and I'm going to, if you could stand by, and I want to bring in Shelby Holliday of the Wall Street Journal. You've been covering this story from all different angles. What do you think about the developments that just happened today with Rick Gates pleading guilty?
They're very significant, and I'm also very surprised we did not hear one question at that press conference about Rick Gates pleading guilty. He's the third person from Trump's campaign, as you've said, the fifth person to plead guilty.
I'm sorry, Shelby, we're watching there. Rick Gates is now leaving the courthouse, and Catherine Herridge will no doubt be coming out after that, and I'm sure Shepard Smith at 3 o'clock will be able to get her to the camera so she can tell you what happened inside. But in the meantime,
Great. It was a whirlwind week, and there was a lot of speculation about whether or not we would even get to this point. So here we are. He did plead guilty. There are big questions about what he knew, what he knows, what information he's offering in order to strike this plea deal. He played a very significant role in the campaign. He did not leave the campaign when Manafort did. He stuck around, and he also played an important role in the transition and continued to be close to the administration. So there are a lot of questions about what he knows, and also what sort of information he might have about the Trump Tower meeting that Manafort attended.
Right.
And also another big question is, will this put pressure on Manafort to quote unquote crack? Will he start cooperating as well? He stands alone.
So we'll have to look in that. But you looked yesterday, I was watching your Twitter feed, and everybody should follow Shelby Holliday, the Wall Street Journal. But you looked into what they're actually accused of. I mean, some of the money laundering, this is the exact kind of swamp creature that the Trump campaign was railing against in 2016.
Right, exactly. Money laundering, a lot of inside ugly DC behavior that, as Chris was just saying, should be cracked down on. People should be applauding these guilty pleas and justice at this point. But there are also, there are some interesting signs we're getting from the White House. They have continued to say that this is all related to Manafort's past and the crimes had nothing to do with the campaign. We are now seeing charges that crimes were committed during the campaign, maybe not necessarily correlated, but that's the key to watch, is what crimes were committed during the campaign as it was unfolding, and did it relate to any potential coordination with Russia?
And do I still have Chris Starwalt with us? Chris, what do you think about that and that in the moving forward of the time frame, right? So now, before it was all this stuff had happened in the past, now you have Manafort and Gates actually engaging in this activity that they're accused of during 2016 and into 2017, with also that story that was out and about this week that Paul Manafort might have offered somebody or confirmed that he could get him a job in the Trump administration for some sort of loan or favor.
Yeah, it ought to make them all a little seasick, and I'm sure they're thinking about being more hygienic at this White House. The biggest thing that I heard today as it relates to all of this stuff was when Trump said about his chief of staff that he hopes he does the right thing, and it sounded like he wanted him to extend his son-in-law's temporary security clearance so that he could continue to work in the White House. Lots of praise for his son-in-law. Jared Kushner is a central figure in all of this stuff as this goes forward about financial relationships and all of that kind of jazz. Jared Kushner is a central figure here, and his decision, the chief of staff's decision now, whether or not to strip the president's son-in-law of this power, of this privilege, will tell us a great, great deal.
I also thought, just from having worked at a White House, I think when the president of the United States empowers the chief of staff, one, I think that's good practice, but I also think it reinforces for everybody who works at the White House to know that the chief of staff is actually in charge, and you have to report to him and stop talking about it behind his back. I think it was that message. I just have a statement from Paul Manafort, if I could just read it to you. I'm sorry, I have to do it off the phone here. Notwithstanding that Rick Gates pled today, I continue to maintain my innocence. I had hoped and expected my business colleague would have had the strength to continue the battle to prove our innocence. For reasons yet to surface, he chose to do otherwise. This does not alter my commitment to defend myself against the untrue, piled-up charges contained in the indictments against me. Shelby, your thoughts?
There are certainly charges piled up, and they continue to come out, as we saw this week. These two men are charged of conspiracy against the United States. Rick Gates also pled guilty to lying to the special counsel just 3 weeks ago, which shocked a lot of people when we saw that news today. But
what about
conspiracy against the United States?
So he had that meeting with Mueller, and then you started hearing the rumors that he was going to plead guilty. It didn't happen until today. Additional charges were filed this week against Manafort and Gates by Mueller. Was that to help pressure the guilty plea?
That may have increased the pressure. Most of the legal experts I've spoken to say that does increase the pressure. That may have gotten him to the point where he flipped. But these are all tea leaves. We don't know all the details. No, only Mueller does. And he could be charged. He would have to plead guilty to all of these charges anyway. So it was unclear what that meant. There was a lot of strange stuff.
Well,
this week.
we'll continue to follow your work. And Chris Starwell, thanks for being here. We're going to have a lot more here. I'm Dana Perino. Next, Shepard Smith.